Hello and welcome to a very special episode of The Monsters Playbook. Today what we are going to be doing is doing a book club review of the second act of the second season of the Cover Story campaign. We're going to be talking about the mystery arcs Sigma, Downtime, Chicago, and Double Cross, and checking in with our characters and our players and seeing where they are as we head into what will be the final act of the season and something approaching endgame. With me, in addition to our usual cast of characters, is special guest Sarah Baker, who plays fan favorite Tiff Torres. So let's talk about it.
Let's get talking about it.
Can I just say, as a quick aside, this whole chunk of mysteries as a whole, what the fuck, Jonny?
Yeah, what is happening?
Every single arc, you're gonna be like, what the fuck?
Things just progressively are escalating every arc, which is great. But it's when I look back and I think at the start of season 2 to kind of where things have gone now and just the things that have been building, good job.
It feels like it had been a long time between arc 1 and arc 2, the events and stuff. But then as we've been releasing the episodes, I'm just oh, those happened really fast. Mm-hmm. That was just back-to-back punches.
Yep.
Yeah, we go dense.
And I was going to say, in terms of the density of this is a very complex mystery. Just all of these mysteries together, just very, very complex, deep storyline of everything. So congrats.
Can we just fight a basic werewolf or ghost or zombie
Where's the fun
sometime?
in that?
We can get our anger out and just beat the shit out of it.
So I saw someone on Twitter pointed out the limitation of D&D style games. You'll be who are the real monsters in this situation? And the game will be can you climb this wall in the rain? This game is built to be weird and horrible and traumatic. I'm not sorry. This being a book club episode, we will be running it like a talk show with 5 hosts. So we each have prepared a set of questions for each other, and we are going to discuss those questions and, of course, their answers. First up, obviously, me. So I want to start with John.
Oh, jeez.
Mark had kind of a transformation at the end of this arc. How do you feel about Mark's promotion? You're kind of a badass now. Think you're going to stay weird?
Nah.
I don't quite know how to answer that because being weird and being badass at the same time are two very mutually exclusive things.
Cheat codes.
But I think it is something that has happened to him and it is in his past, a part of his past. And I think that helps ground him a little bit. He still is not sure exactly what part of him this is, percentage wise. Is this his whole past? He's this prince that was just always, and he just happened to forget recently or whatever? Or is this something that has been going on a lot longer? Is this a huge part of his past or whatever?
Is more stuff going to start happening?
It's a memento situation.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think this gives him a bit of clarity, even though he doesn't fully know what it means yet. But it's something that is tangible yet.
I've mentioned before that I definitely feel most at peace with just kind of doing stuff to Mark and Mark's backstory.
Yeah.
It somehow doesn't bother me to just say, yeah, this is true about you now, John, and see how you deal with it.
Just run with it. Just make it into my own. But yeah, I think really what it comes down to is, especially in the past few episodes and stuff like that, Mark just kind of finding his place. This gives him a bit of clarity. So
I love that for you. Miah, who's in worse shape at the end of this act, Theo or Casey?
Probably Theo.
Yeah, that was a gimme.
Why? She seems perfectly fine.
Yeah, Theo's traumatized, broken, lost, all of the negative words that you can think of that a character is going on a journey is having.
But Casey lost her van.
Oh, yeah. That makes me mad.
Maybe Casey. Maybe it's Casey then.
I had forgotten about that.
No, it's Theo. Casey's avoiding it all. and just sort of focusing on the objective. But Theo's lost. Theo doesn't know what to do. Theo has no direction. Theo's probably has been acting out in negative, unhealthy ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Theo doesn't know where to put the emotions and feelings she has, whereas Casey knows where she can put those
Casey knows
emotions
exactly
and
where to put them.
feelings.
In between the sights of my sniper rifle.
It's not healthy, but at least it's clear.
Yeah, like I mean, you could I wouldn't say Casey's in the worst shape. I would say Casey is in a shape, in that she's trying to navigate and come to terms with what years has become.
She has like a direction, like she's got a purpose. Whereas, yeah, like what you were saying with Theo, she's a little aimless at the moment. She just had that like opportunity to go to Chicago, and then that just got taken out from under her.
Yeah, Theo has 0 to negative direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lauren, in Act 2, we get to meet Anna. What are some of the challenges in playing two characters who actually interact with each other a lot? And
oh my God.
More interestingly, because that's actually probably a question for Miah, how did you go about making Anna your own after her life starting as a Jonny-controlled NPC?
This is hard to say. So like with Anna and Kira, it was definitely a lot easier for them to like RP previously when you were running Anna as an NPC for obvious reasons.
just pure logistics.
Like I actually kind of avoid having Anna and Kira talking to each other because it's awkward. It's awkward talking to yourself. Like props to you for doing it all the time. But like I kind of try to avoid it, honestly. But the few times that I do, I think just trying to like stay grounded in like kind of where are they at? Like what's their headspace? And like a lot of the times with like Anna, you know, she is the protector playbook right now, so it's usually like, you know, making sure that Kira is okay. And with Kira, she's kind of like she's always kind of in mission mode, like similar to Casey. I feel like those two are the most grounded in like the here and now, like this is what we need to focus on. Whereas Anna is kind of like but how are you? Like, let's just take a moment. Let's take a breather, like whatever. And just kind of trying to remember that and like kind of how they approach life in general. Mm-hmm. But then as for the, like, how is it going from having her being an NPC to somebody that I control? Yeah, that was an interesting challenge. And something that I kind of, to be honest, like struggled with at times with Anna, because I was like a little bit of...
Jonny, what would she say?
Yeah, or like not even that, just like trying to find like her own like unique thing and like how I would play her. Because you want to have your characters be different, right? Mm-hmm. Like you don't want it to just be the same character. And so like there was stuff that like I feel like earlier Kira would have been a little bit more like jokey about some things. Once I had Anna, I was like, I need to kind of like tone that back a little bit because it was like there was too much character bleed between the two of them.
Yeah. And
so like kind of getting a handle on that and figuring out like where the differences are between the two characters, especially with Anna too, trying to figure out who she was apart from Kira. Because all of her life she had been kind of with her and that was her focus. And so that's a big thing that moving forward for Anna that I was thinking about and I know that Anna was thinking about too is like, I kind of want to make something for myself. That's why she got the job. That's why she got all the, you know, some of the things that she's trying to do to build her own identity. Mm-hmm. And so as much as I sometimes struggle with like figuring out the identity between those two characters, Anna is also struggling because she doesn't know. Like
interesting.
So I don't know. I lean into it at some points.
I was just gonna say with that character bleed thing, like you know how you were talking about separating them a little mm-hmm. bit. Like I think the events that we're kind of, you know, that we've been dealing with and stuff like that over time has worn on Kira a little bit. And I think it warrants that separation a little bit. I feel like she's, you know, there's a lot on her and she's not as cheerful as she was and stuff. And
oh yeah, things get piled on in season 2. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely on brand. I think that separation there outside of just doing it for the character bleed aspect of it. But yeah, I think it all fits.
I also think like playing two characters that are also siblings, I feel like is like a level harder than playing two characters who have a unrelated background whatsoever.
Yeah, it is, because there's like a kind of a built-in dynamic that they're supposed to have, and it's like, how do you kind of figure that out? And I don't know, it's just a different challenge, and like making sure that they are different, but they're also like, they are siblings, so they should be like recognizable in some capacity as like having the same, upbringing, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and that's an interesting way to put it too, that in a way you're playing three characters, that you're playing Kira, you're playing Anna, and you're playing their relationship.
Yeah.
That you have to like, you can't just react to each thing that the person is saying. You have to react with a bunch of built-in assumptions.
Yeah, and like in the latest arc that we just did, the Double Cross arc, Anna, a lot of stuff was coming to a head with Anna. She was feeling massively inferior. And she was really struggling to feel like, how do I fit in? How do I help out in this? That's something that she struggles with. Like, it's an ongoing thing where it's like, who am I? And like, how do I fit in? How do I help? And with Kira, like, that was her identity, was like, I'm here to protect Kira, and I can't even do that. And all of that's happening in the Chicago and the Double Cross arc, where it's like twice in a row, like just two gut punches. Like, I couldn't be there to help my sister. So she's really struggling, but Anna is the type that suffers in silence and will just laugh it off and joke it off. And she's going to, maybe go get a drink and just ignore it. Super healthy.
Speaking of people who keep everything locked up inside, Sarah.
Who, me?
I know, yes, not you, your character.
What's the difference?
Right to my soul.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I know Tiff primarily as a teenager from our previous Monsterville campaign. How do you think Tiff has changed since her surly teenage adventures? And how do you think she has absolutely not changed?
Oh, man. I feel like the core of her is absolutely the same. I feel like everything else is just kind of like a wall that's been constructed around her. She's grown in that she's able to listen to authority a little better, because that's most of her job now.
You'd hope so.
And she's grown in the ways that she's like had to be like a functioning adult in this world. But I think in terms of like interpersonal relationships and vulnerability, not a lot of progress.
I like that you're like, she's just now gotten more expert at constructing the wall that stands between her and other people.
She's like, this is a convincing facade, right? Like,
it was kind of interesting too, I think, because at the time I believe we were still playing Monsterville when we recorded these episodes that you were in. And so it was interesting that I could grok a difference that was like, Teen Tiff was much more sort of outbursty and in many ways more active. Part of that just being a function of being a guest star in a show and not one of its stars, but also like much more of a clear boundary being drawn, that this it really did feel like, I've done this before, I've tried to help, and I'm not doing it again.
thank you. I'm really glad that like that came across. I felt like it was definitely like very challenging. Like, how am I going to make these characters feel like separate and distinct from one another? To myself, I guess, like to your listeners, they don't know Teen Tiff at all, but I was very stressed about it. Cause like I wanted her to feel like true to her teenage self. I wanted it to feel like somebody that had grown up from that background and like had those experiences. And, I think that, that's exactly how I would see her being, is like that rebellious streak is still very much there in the center of her. And I'm sure she still like grits her teeth when somebody tells her to do something X way, but she's, keeps it inside, keeps a straight face. And it's like, okay, boss. But, she jumps at the opportunity with the drum stuff to be like, okay, maybe I can like pull some strings here and like have a little more influence, not to join
Something
them.
for me to tear down.
Obviously, okay. But yeah.
It's like all of the things that she did as a teenager, she's just now better at, for better and worse. She's pushing people away. She's really good at pushing people away. She's got the shadow magic. She's really good at the shadow magic.
Yeah, I think what remained like quintessentially the same for Tiff is that deep feeling of like, what am I doing wrong? Like, she still has not gotten that core piece of like, why does everybody keep getting mad at me?
Yeah.
Why do my friends always leave?
Surely
Hasn't
I'm not the
clicked.
problem here.
No, absolutely not. This is just a recurring problem in my life since day one.
And I haven't gotten to the bottom of it. Better move on and do something else.
I'll just get really good at my job.
Yep, totally. Well, that actually dovetails really perfectly into one of my questions that I have for you, Sarah. So maybe I'll start with you and then go back.
Sure.
So Kira and Tiff had a little bit of shadow therapy where Tiff admitted that the person that meant the most to her was the queen. Since then, Kira has kind of continued to challenge Tiff on listening to the queen, who is clearly abusive to her. Has Tiff started to listen to this? Is it starting to sink in? Or is she just as committed to the queen as ever? Where is she at?
Man, I mean, Tiff has definitely heard variations of this throughout her life. And I think her response has been to, cut those people out who have been telling her the truth because she doesn't want to hear it. I think Kira definitely scared her a little bit because of like the similarities that they have. And I think Tiff being like, or Kira being like, I see what's going on. I've been here before. I think that was uncomfortable for Tiff. And I think that Kira's particular like forceful brand of like, we're going to have a vulnerable, intimate moment right now. And there's nothing you can do about it.
God,
Like,
I can relate.
I think that was really effective for Tiff. I think she needed somebody to do that.
Kira will always be there for you to do that.
Yep, I will always be there whether you
like
want me
it or not.
Yep.
Which is kind of the only way Tiff would ever have that conversation.
Exactly.
You have to kidnap, therapize this girl.
I definitely think it unlocked a little stuff. Something is like rattling around in the brain. She's like washing her face at night and she gets that little jolt and she's like, ugh.
Wow, that's specific.
And then I actually have a bonus question for you here, but I feel like it's kind of on the same track.
Sure.
So speaking of Kira and Tiff's dynamic, Kira sort of stuck her neck out for Tiff to kind of help her with what was going on with the author. What did it mean to Tiff to have somebody that was finally willing to trust her for a change?
A lot. I think that was like a huge sticking point for Tiff. Like going back to that feeling of like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why do people continually distrust me? I think it meant a lot to her when she was like, she asked Kira like plainly, I need you to trust me. And Kira like listened. I think that kind of like was that like self-centeredness and stubbornness in Tiff. Like, I think having that somebody actually like agree to that, she was like, oh, okay. So like, she was fully expecting that to be a fight. And I think that it wasn't like, I think that meant a lot.
Yeah, I really loved that whole exchange because it was like Kira could have very easily been like, no, like you haven't proven yourself at all. But I think she kind of was like, okay, I'll be willing to trust you. If this is gonna work, fine, I'll invest that because I think you're worth it.
Oh.
Yeah, I really liked that whole exchange. It was good. It was very good.
I loved it so much. And I felt like it was like it was like the necessary piece for like them to continue working forward as a group, without everybody feeling so burned and just. So good job, Kira. Really holding the group together.
John.
Oh boy.
So my question for you is that we learn during the downtime arc that Lowry isn't just a ghost that's been haunting Mark. He's family of some sort. And we further learned that Mark used to be a prince of the sky. What does Mark think about this past life that he had in there, and how does he reconcile that with who he is now?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to the question that, what does Mark kind of think about his new status? I just think the contrast between his life that he was beginning to start to know when Mark was younger and stuff like that. He remembers going to school, having a normal life. Then suddenly he's not having this normal life and he's weird and awkward and things like that and trying to just find his way. And then suddenly somebody throws a knife in and says, you were this heroic person in the past. And he's just like, wait a minute, what? Just completely blindsides him. And back to this question of Lowry and stuff, I think this contrast is just kind of overwhelming for him, but also kind of what I said before, it's grounding. It gives him a little bit of understanding and solidity, I guess, in the world. And so I think he's kind of like weirded out, but also very excited and interested in finding out what he did. Because it's this, again, just kind of a sense of fitting in and like, oh my God, like I was this heroic person at one point and stuff like that. What happened to me, And that just, I think, furthers his drive to explore and figure things out. But I mean, yeah, he's excited to kind of figure out what that means.
I'm extremely glad to hear you say that. I want to interrupt here because the thing I've sort of come to realize is that building these mysteries and building these campaigns at this scale, it's really like I put stuff in front of you guys and you have to figure out how to move forward. But then also character wise, I feel like you've put stuff in front of me and I have to figure out how that makes sense backwards.
Right.
And like Mark was the big obvious one where it was like, okay, Mark's weird. Mark talks to ghosts. Mark has wings because he feels like it. What's the scenario? What could be happening behind the scenes or previously that would make
That
all
allows
of that
this.
make sense?
Oh,
How can I?
Jonny is the king of doing that.
Oh, hell yeah. Johnny's like, let me pull some strings in the background and we'll see what we can do.
Wait till the end of Act 3 and then we can talk about another part of that. That like you have this thing and how can I make that make sense? How can I come up with something that has happened to you or will happen to you that will check all of these different boxes? And I think that like Mark's whole thing of why don't I fit in? Why do I have these powers? He did start wondering about it for so much of his life. He just didn't and was like, yeah, sure, ghosts. But once he started wondering about it, then you started tripping over clues and then you get this big revelation. And now it's like, oh, some of this makes sense now.
Yep.
I feel like the beginning part of this act 2, as we're calling it, Mark is like initially like super apprehensive, I think, of a lot of the stuff about there, and he's just like, I want a normal life, and like I'm just
kind of shunning it, keeping it out of my
You're shunning
purview,
it. You're really kind of trying to keep it separate, I think, because maybe there's like some fear of what it was, or like that it was trying to like get you to come back, or I don't know. But I found that interesting because by the end of this like act, you're kind of like embracing it, like kind of like maybe I can make this fit into my life now.
Well, and I know that there was kind of a weird background coming or whatever, and then when it started turning a little bit more positive, from a certain couple clues that I've tripped over and stuff like that, it became a lot more supported and attainable. I think before it was like, oh God, I'm going to turn into this demon that, is in that vision we saw early on of me becoming a demon or whatever. I mean, it's like, do I want to harness this power and turn, instinctually I was like, do I try to harness this power and make it into something that is positive, or will that consume me or whatever? And I was like, I don't know about this. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, you had this other background, family. And I don't know. It made it easier to kind of swallow that pill.
Right. Nope. I totally understand that. Jonny, my next question is for you.
All right.
Let's talk about there. Where did you come up with the idea of there and its kings? How long had this been percolating for you? And was Mark always going to be a prince of the sky? Or was that something that you decided on the spot when he changed his playbook to the divine?
John, you did me a lot of favors by switching to the divine. That worked so good.
I got you, man.
And so that one's easy. No, I had not planned for that at all, even kind of.
You knew there was a connection to like there, but you didn't know what it was.
I just imagined Jonny in profile mode one night after the game. Yes, it's all coming together.
Likely. John, can I change my class to the divine? Jonny, profile mode. Yes, you can. That actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, even just going into season 2, I knew that there was the connection between him and there. I knew that there was, I think initially I had described it as like a raw consciousness, which I kind of still think is
valid,
based. Yeah. But like having it shift to be kind of something more specific and more solid was just real good. That was just
fun.
Real fun. Thank you for doing that, John.
High five.
As far as there, like most of the interesting ideas that I have, it is stolen, but I did do different stuff to it. So I did it largely as a prank on Miah because
asshole.
The Dresden Files books has a sort of alternate realm that is called the Never Never.
Yeah.
And I find that to be a silly name. Mm-hmm. So I was like,
all the Dresden Files fans hate you.
Yes, I was like, I want something that's going to be quite serious, as that place is, but I want to call it something silly. And so I called it There. And then as far as like, once I sort of got the idea for the place, then it was a matter of I didn't want it to be as sprawling as the Never Never, because that place has a whole lot of tie-ins to a bunch of actual real world mythology and, you know, Seelie and Unseelie courts and fairies and wild hunts and so on and so forth. And I, one, don't want to do that much reading, and two, find it so much more interesting to come up with my own stuff.
Yeah.
Because you actually read the Dresden Files.
Yeah, until the end. And then the insidest of jokes. And the Kings actually wound up becoming so much more interesting and complex than I ever planned for them to, because I separated them out by these sort of, you know, ancient proto-human concepts, these like areas that would have been, you know, to our great ancestors would have been spaces of wonder that you would theorize about. The sea and the sky and the stars, they're places, they're things you can see, but they're also concepts. And then from there, it became really interesting because they also kind of represent past, present, and future, where like the sky tells you when it is now, you tell the future by the stars, and the sea is unfathomably ancient. And I'm really, really pleased with what there became and is so far and will become into the future.
Oh, it's so good. Can't wait.
I really, really like it. I want to say this out loud, at least on some kind of a recording. We may or may not include it, but well, it does kind of tie in, because at the end of Chicago, you meet the Council of Many, and that is the like modern day adults governing council of what had been in 2003 in the Monsterville campaign, the Under the Stairs kids. And what I loved about them, you're going to notice patterns of that and like the Infinite Hallway, where like what's so great about them is that they are, for reasons that don't make sense, a total catch-all for anything weird. That like they are beings from maybe folklore, maybe demonic realms, maybe that all sort of got together at some point and were like, we're going to have to help each other blend in, because the world is becoming more social and societal and human, and all of our wild spaces are going away. So we're going to have to hide, and we're going to have to help each other. I loved that so much. And I loved that I was able to bring it into the cover story to have just like, yeah, here's just going to be a stage where a bunch of weird people are going to stand and they're all friends.
My last question I have for Miah, I have a couple questions for you. In the Double Cross arc, Casey pulls a very non-Casey move and tries to get most of Cross's team over to her side. Why did she feel compelled to help these people, and why did she ultimately decide to shoot Avery instead of arresting her?
I can answer the easy question first, which is, why did I shoot Avery? Because Casey tried to, I don't know if reason with her is the right phrasing, but just like tried to offer and give a second chance. And it was very clear after their interaction that Avery can't be saved. So by shooting her, it was kind of two birds, one stone in a way. Like, in a way, saving the world from the monster that was Avery, and maybe also saving Avery from herself. And maybe also at the end of their conversation, Casey was frustrated and just said, fuck it.
The truth comes out.
There it is.
Just didn't want to talk to her anymore, ever.
As for the rest, kind of the same token. Casey wanted to offer them a second chance. She can understand and see that they were hurt from Cross, and they themselves felt betrayed by the drum and quite possibly ears. And Casey really wanted to show them and prove to them that the ears that they know is not the ears that she fell in love with, this ears is not what she believes in. So giving them a second chance, giving them, I guess, hope is what Casey wanted to do, and offering to help the remaining team of Crosses, just trying to show them something nice. Like, when was the last time anybody was nice to them or heard them? And Casey's also a bit of a like protector and like a helper. So being that she could see that they were hurting and had been hurt, maybe Casey saw a little bit of herself in them too, being that she's been hurt by ears and the drum now.
Okay, and then I'm going to ask my Theo question too, because you have two characters. During the Chicago and Double Cross arc, we see Theo make some questionable choices, such as removing people's memories, almost putting that eye in her face several times. What do you think is behind those decisions and impulses?
Theo, I think, was trying to help and I think just fix some of the mistakes. I think just ultimately she was trying to help it, but the way that she was choosing to help was maybe not the brightest. By like removing the memories of that family that she first meets in Chicago, Theo was trying to protect and help her brother. With the couple of times where Theo thought about putting the eye in her own eye, she was thinking like, I don't have access to the power and the strength to face this problem. Maybe if I use this thing, though, that would make me powerful enough.
That was kind of what I was assuming, and I know that you changed your playbook to the hex. Is your hex thing power? Is that what it is?
Magic is an addiction, I believe.
Because that makes sense to me. I feel like a lot of the decisions that are maybe questionable are usually from a place of, one, Theo either, wanting to, like, help, or it's like she feels pressured and she's like, I want to get control of the situation, so I'm going to, like, assert some power on this, or I want more power to get more control. So
yeah, I think she's maybe sometimes just sort of grasping at straws, but like, if anything, like I look at Theo as a child that has trauma that doesn't realize that she has trauma and is not dealing with it at all. And also Theo's temptation as the hex is addiction. She uses magic to do what you could do without it.
My addition to this answer is that this becomes a part of Theo's arc going forward in a big way. She's looking for a path. She's looking for someone to tell her that things will be okay if you just do this. She's looking for a way forward that makes sense, and no one's giving her one, and all the ones she's finding for herself turn out not to work. So I think that like that's a lot of the casting about that she's doing is, if I try this, will that make me happy? If I try this, then will I not be scared anymore?
I don't know if I would say, will this make me happy? I think it would be more, will this make them happy? Will this make them proud? Will this make them love me?
That's so much worse.
Yeah.
welcome to the Monsters Playbook, where the real monsters are the friends we made along the way, and nobody can hurt you as much as you hurt yourself. All right. Well, that's it for me. Sarah, you have questions for us?
Yeah.
You're going to make us all spill the tea?
What do you think of Tiff?
All right, Laura, your question. What do you think of Tiff? Jonny, what do you think of Tiff?
Oh my god, how did you know?
This whole what's the difference between me and my character thing is starting to make a little more sense.
God, let's all calm down here. Okay, well, Miah clocked me for my question for Miah. I'm going to start this up. I'm going to ask the question that all the fans are thinking, which is, what do you think the potential is for an enemies to lovers arc between Casey and Tiff right now, given where they left things in the last episode together?
Oh, this is not fair! Do you want the
Starting off
Casey?
hot.
Do you want the Casey answer or the Miah answer?
Both. Well, what's
Okay.
the difference?
There's a lot of difference. So right now, Casey and Tiff are not on good terms. Casey has a very huge grudge against Tiff for what happened at Casey's house. So as far as Casey's concerned, on a scale of 1 to 10, of 10 being like, fuck yeah, let's fuck, and 1 like, get out.
So glad I asked this question.
Casey's probably a 1.
Okay,
But-
so there is a chance.
Telling me there's a chance.
I mean, what is the bottom of the scale? Like, we're gonna have
Well,
to
it could have been 0.
We're gonna okay. We're gonna have to have a couple of redeeming moments with those two. We want them to get serious. And I mean, there's also the fact that Casey has a girlfriend. Miah. Oh, I would love to have a enemies to friend relationship, or more so.
You're already outlining the fic, aren't you?
I think a Tiff and Casey ship would be very hot and frustrating. Like, I think we've talked about this off camera, Sarah, that like, oh yeah, that would be so much fun, but it would never work out.
Too similar.
Very too similar. Both, correct me if I'm wrong, but is Tiff also a workaholic?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Casey's a huge workaholic as well.
What's the name?
Night Terror.
Terror Tiff and Nightmare Davis.
It's a pretty good name. You gotta
It's a
admit.
pretty goddamn good name.
But I kind of want to spitball back at you, Sarah, real quick. Were there times in this arc that Tiff or you put it out there for Casey and then we just blindly didn't see it?
Yeah. Well,
There was one comment where you're like, oh, coffee or something. Like,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, well, at the beginning, she was like, so did you mean coffee or did you mean, you know what I mean? She was like trying to like gauge what the situation was.
Are we having lunch or are we having lunch?
Exactly. And then there was the whole time where they were having the party and Tiff was like, oh, we need a distraction. You know, what if you and I were like on the porch?
Just make it.
I don't remember what we're
Concept.
I think we're gonna.
Yeah, I think definitely the party was not there. And I think Casey and I did not catch that. The coffee thing, like I was like,
Mark did.
yeah, apparently.
Oh, that was a good time.
So I guess my next question will be for Mark. It has nothing to do with the plot whatsoever, but I want to know if Mark has ever considered matching Halloween costumes for him and Lowry, and if so, what they would be.
Oh my god.
Okay, we haven't heard everybody else's question, but this is my favorite question of the night.
Thank you.
Mark would dress up as a candle, and he would put Lowry on his head, and he would floof up his feathers so he looks like a flame. And he'd walk around.
That's so delightful.
That's so cute.
I think I just broke John.
John Wander remains the king of this game.
I love that, and I love that you answered like
Did you
immediately.
just come up with that?
Yes.
Yes. Doesn't even miss a beat. Like he's, you know, I brainstormed this for a couple of years, and here's what I've come up with.
Okay, now I want to ask, since it is spooky season, Lauren, what would Kira and Tommy's couple costume be? And John, what would Mark and Theo's couple costume be?
Oh, I feel like Kira and Tommy would do the Addams Family. Gormaz and Morticia.
Tall ass Gomez.
Yeah, it would be a very tall Gomez. I don't know. That was the first one that came to my mind.
Oh, you know what? You know what? I got this.
Pitch it.
Mark would be a toboggan, and Theo would be riding him down the hill.
Oh my gosh.
From that one episode.
Yep.
John,
From that
you're
one
unstable.
episode.
I know. No, we know this. Mario. It would be.
Oh yeah,
Mario's
yeah,
the
it
shit
would be.
man.
Yeah, there
It
was
would
an
be
easy
Mario.
one. You could have went
Yeah.
that way. Yeah.
Would you be the arms or would you be the legs?
No, Mark would be Mario, and Theo would be probably Peach.
That's cute.
Mhm.
Oh, you know what? I would be Mario, and then you would be Peach, but you'd be wearing like a Bowser outfit that's holding Peach, running away, and I have to like chase after you.
So it's like a Thruples costume
Yeah, basically.
somehow?
God.
No. Oh, wait, no. You would be Mario, Theo would be Peach, and Laura would be Bowser. Or Lariat.
We talk about the important stuff here on the podcast.
Yeah, obviously.
Gotta be straight on that.
Where are you sitting? What are you eating? What are you dressing up as for Halloween? What Christmas presents did you get?
Who were you crushing on?
You know, game stuff. That's also my favorite question. Thank you so much, Sarah.
I'm so glad. Jonny, I want to know what it felt like on your end, like adding another character to this kind of like established dynamic, if you felt like it made the mystery more unpredictable, or if you felt like you could kind of anticipate the way the characters were going to relate to each other.
I could not anticipate the way the characters were going to relate to each other, even kind of. It was very scary. It was weird and odd and surprising in ways that I didn't expect it to be, but it was also exciting and dynamic and rewarding in ways that I didn't expect it to be.
Oh, Dad's proud of us.
Tiff fit in so well.
She did fit in really well, and like of the players and characters to guest on this show, it was a really natural fit because for reasons unclear even to me, I had already introduced Captain Torres as part of Casey's backstory.
Yeah.
So that was just natural. But then, yeah, you came in and played a really good, compellingly
Frustrating.
consistent,
Frustrating for Casey.
a recognizable version of Tiff that still fit in with the adult world, but brought enough of that like angst that still felt fresh and different, but also of a piece with the kind of emotional bullshit that you guys get up to and bogged down by. The other thing, and I've said this before, but I will never not say it, like the fact that Tiff was like, I don't want to be there, I'm going to leave, and like split the party in a game like Dungeons and Dragons, that would make me furious. Like there was a moment early on, you may remember this, Sarah, in Monsterville, where like an adventure hook showed up in the lunchroom at the high school, and someone was like, hi, there's something going on with my girlfriend's stepdad. Can you help me? And the characters were all like, no,
Nah.
I have basketball practice. And that kind of shutting down of the usual dynamics of this kind of play in those like achievement-based games or task-based games, as the game master, I'd be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? But in this game, it's just like, okay, then something else happens to you. You go over here and we'll see how that works out. And
It has a good playing field then for rife for drama.
yeah, and it actually wound up working really well for, like you say, the drama of why did you leave us? But also the fact that then the people who were in the house disappeared and only Tiff was left on the other side. So it was perfect and it was great. And I was very nervous about it, but I think it turned out really well.
What were your feelings, Jonny, when Tiff and her team just like left to go to a club and we got all split up?
Unsurprised. Like, I think based on what I know about
Tiff.
based on what I knew about Tiff going in and the way that Sarah had been playing her as a grown-up, it's like, look at the facts at hand. Why would she stick her neck out for these people in any capacity? She's got a goal, and that goal is to make these people not be scared of her anymore.
Yeah.
And those people is not you guys.
Well, and to also keep her team safe, because I mean, it was like a full-on
Right.
other dimension, and like they had no idea. She didn't want to pull them into that, so made a lot of sense.
That was definitely a motivation. So my final question is for Lauren. Like you said, Kira really stuck her neck out for Tiff and is kind of taking a gamble on her. I'm curious if she was worried that there would be potential like blowback from the group for it, particularly Casey.
I think Kira knew that going in, that like getting Casey to get back into the good graces of Tiff was gonna be a whole thing, because she knows Casey very well, and so she's like, I know this is gonna be like contention later down the road, but she also knows that like if I vouch for Tiff, the rest of the group will come along. They have that dynamic, they have that trust there, and so she's like, if I say that like we can trust you, they'll trust me. So, and that's what I think she says in the episode. She's, because I know that I have that trust there with the rest of the group, by extension, they'll learn to trust you. So it's kind of just like it was a reciprocal thing where she's like, I know this is going to be, there's going to be some, we're going to have to work on it, but we can get there, and they'll be willing to go along with it. Plus, like, what options do we have? Like,
Right.
we don't have any allies in the drum, really, besides Tiff. I mean, at the end of the Double Cross arc, you know, we do take home some of Cross's team who were in the drum, but some of them weren't even Ears agents to begin with. They were just straight up Cross's operatives. So they probably didn't have as much intel, and you were a very good ally to have. So I think that made sense to Kira.
Was Kira afraid of Tiff turning against us? Like, if we turned so much against her, could Tiff have turned into a villain or an enemy?
Ooh.
Well, I don't think that ever really was like a concern for Kira. I think the possibility of that being a thing, like if we, I guess I'll say this. In Kira's mind, if somebody didn't reach out to Tiff and actually try to work with her and help her and extend that trust to her, maybe she would become an enemy. Mm-hmm. And so I think in Kira's mind, it was, now I'm going to nip this in the bud. Like, we need her, and I think she needs us. So I think she kind of maybe saw that.
Just one more piece of evidence to the theory that Kira watches Naruto.
Whoa.
I don't understand.
There is a character who realizes that this person is what I would have been if no one had reached out and trusted me.
Yeah. Yep.
shocked that I was able to communicate that so succinctly.
No, thank you. Thank you. That makes a lot more sense. But no, totally. I think she could see the writing on the wall, and she can see like either Tiff is going to be put into a position where she's going to have no allies and she's going to be working with the drum, or she'll just get killed by the drum, or she could turn against us. Like those were the options. And it was like, what's the best outcome here? And it was, let's work together. So yeah.
Cute. Wholesome.
Miah, we're going to start with you. At the beginning of episode 14, we find out that Tessa has returned and is standing directly in front of us as we exit the hallway. Miah, as Casey, what were your immediate feelings following this turn of events?
What the fuck, Jonny? that was it. We might have talked about this the last covering the story. I believe Lauren knew something was up, and I did not. I did not know, and you can totally tell that I did not know because I correct Jonny very sassily about Cosmo's gender. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, fine, fuck you. Here's Tessa. And I'm just like, grips table, falls to the floor. Like, what?
Miah, that's not the pronoun that I use for my van. Me. That is so not the point.
Right? That's like exactly it. I was really confused. I think the first couple emotions that came across was confused, suspicious.
Kira and I are both like, is that... Hold on, can we tell if there's something weird about the situation?
Yeah, I was immediately suspicious. Casey was very suspicious and confused. And I will say this expands past
were you happy at all?
I feel like...
That feels like an answer.
I feel like happy is too strong of a word. Because of everything that's already happened to Casey and everything, like, it's like, okay, yeah, but it's too good to be true. It's too good to be true. And like, this is going to expand a little bit past what you're asking me in this question, but Casey is still a little suspicious, like still a little bit too good to be true. But like, if she's here, so like why not take a chance and try? But there's still a little bit of Casey in me that's just like, when's the shoe gonna drop?
That makes sense. Okay. So on another note, in episode 17, how hard was it to tell Mark that you were moving to Chicago?
By you, I assume you mean Theo.
Yes, sorry, me, Mark.
It was really hard to tell all of you.
Who was the hardest?
Yeah, who was the hardest, Miah?
Who do you love the most?
Honestly, I think telling Kira was the most.
Mm-hmm.
Because Theo was really nervous to like offend or let down Kira. And then like telling Mark, it was just, I think, straight up scary.
Yeah. Did you think that Mark was going to have a negative reaction to it?
No, it was just like, it would have been a lot easier to move to Chicago if Theo wasn't friends with any of you guys. Like, it was just nervous. I think by telling you guys made it real.
Mm-hmm.
Like saying it into the air would make it happen. And the way that everything shook out kind of sucked. Like the way Theo had to tell you all and how she immediately left after Casey's house events.
Yeah, I mean there was a lot of stuff going on at the time too, just personal stuff too. So I'm sure that telling us wasn't the only thing that was on your mind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the two questions for Miah. Let's move on to Lauren. In episode 17, Mark and Anna go to Greg's Talkin' Shop, also known as the phone store.
Our favorite.
What was your reaction to Mark trying to use mental dominion to get you a discount on a new phone?
Mm-hmm.
And to further that, at what point did you realize that Mark was completely oblivious to your attempts to flirt?
So to answer the first part, the reaction to using mental dominion, I mean, I think Anna kind of touched on that a little in the episode where she was just kind of like, did you think that was necessary? Like kind of more like just kind of questioning him.
Just like, wait a minute, what?
Well, because Kira has done that. She has that ability, and Anna has always witnessed it being used for bad things. And so in this instance, this was used purely for like,
Trivial
I'd just get her a fucking flip phone or something. Like, it was kind of harmless. But I think she was kind of just like, why did you need to do that? This kind of was more her reaction more than anything. And I think also a little bit just like, be careful. Like, you don't want to use this for the wrong reasons. So I think she was just kind of trying to get a little bit of perspective on that.
Sure.
Because, and I think this actually comes up in the episode when they're in Chicago. Kira uses her mental dominion powers again. And it's not so pretty. and Anna speaks on it then too, where she's kind of just like, I think she's avoiding Kira in that episode, and she like then Theo tries to like use her memory thing to wipe Blink's memory, and she does speak up to that and is like, no, we have enough of people trying to fuck with people's minds like without their consent. Can we
right
So she doesn't feel good about it. Like she thinks it's dangerous. And
I'm also trying to think, was this at a point where Mark was still struggling with like knocking before basically shooting his mind ideas into people's heads, or was this way after?
That's most of Mark's career.
I was just gonna say that's a continuous
fair,
struggle of Mark.
Fair. Guilty.
But yeah, it was probably happening more frequently back then. I guess on the other hand too, like with that though, like it was kind of a neutral point overall, but like she could see the positive of like, oh, like he just did that really nice thing for me. That's so sweet. And then like on the other hand, she's like, no, but that's a bad thing that he just did. So like it's kind of a net neutral.
So Mark had Anna analyzing the entire time.
Sure.
Okay.
But then I think at what point did she realize that Mark was completely oblivious to her attempts to flirt when she was trying to give him the tattoo?
I listened to that back today, and yeah, 100%. That's kind of what
Mark was very oblivious to it, and like Anna was. I think she even like said something maybe in the earlier episode where she's like, "Oh, like it's like super cute" or something like that, and you kind of were just like, "What? You're flirting with me?" It was apparent to her that like he wasn't picking up on it. I think she was also just kind of like watching some of the interactions of like you and Theo, and she was just like, "Okay, yep. Nope, there's
Boundaries.
something there." Yeah. And Anna, I've said it before that Anna's not the type of person to like
cockblock.
No, she's not there for that. Well, and like she's not going to chase somebody who is like invested in somebody else. Like that to her doesn't seem fun. Like she wants somebody that's going to be invested in her. And so I think that was kind of her whole view on all of that. So yeah, so she moved on pretty quick.
Very, very good episode. Jumping back a little bit to episode 14, when Anna gets her body for the first time. Did you playing as Kira feel as though she lost kind of a part of herself? Or was there some relief or was it just like focused on Anna completely? Like she was relieved now that Anna has an opportunity to experience life physically.
I've talked about this a little bit, that I think for Kira, it was like, this is actually a good thing for Anna. Like, even though it like hurts and like I think it definitely felt like she was losing a part of herself. I mean, she kind of is. That it was ultimately like, I want to give Anna the life that we never had, like an opportunity to have a good life. Anna had spent so much time looking out for Kira that this was a little bit of Kira's way to repay the favor, but also keep her safe from Kira, because Kira just, I think I mentioned this in maybe one of our AMAs, that Kira, there was a period of time when Anna was dormant basically in Kira's mind, and it was because of something that Kira had did. So she didn't want to lose Anna like that again. And so that was a
protection thing.
It was a protective thing for both Anna, but also for herself. Like she was like, I can't lose you again. Like you'll be safer in your own body type thing. And I think Jonny RP'd it where Anna was actually the one that I think was a little bit more struggling with the separation of the two, because it was like, I feel like I'm losing you.
It was very cute.
So that
leaving home.
Yeah. So that was very sad. But I think, and so I think, with Anna, she's kind of like, how do I function now? Because this is just new. I've never really had this autonomy quite in this way before. So it's sort of like just her kind of trying to figure out where does she want to go? What's Anna's deal? So I don't know. I thought it was be fun to try out the two characters.
Well, on that note, and this kind of bridges into my questions for Jonny. In retrospect, did you foresee Anna getting her own body? And over the course of the next few episodes, after she did get her body, and I was talking to Lauren a little bit prior to this, and it sounded like it was kind of a joint effort in creating this character and stuff. But was your original thought for this character envisioned in this way, and as
how bad did I do bringing her?
Yeah,
to life?
I was like bringing her to life. Is it in line with kind of what you thought it was going to be, or did it grow into something else?
The process of bringing her to life went really smoothly, suspiciously smoothly, you might say.
Weird.
I can now sort of no longer remember the exact circumstances or reasons for Anna popping up in Kira's head and memory, but like that part of Kira's story and the alternate personality.
The original RP.
Yeah. Like, I think it's again one of those things that it's like you do an archaeologist brush here where you kind of like scrape down and sort of see what comes up in the role playing and in the improv. And then you go back and you're like, okay, if that happened, what would make sense to make it make sense? So from the beginning, I think Anna was always just going to be in my head a voice in Kira's head. Like that's her role. That's fine. She's this NPC. It's very odd and kind of spooky, but works, and she's nice. But then, yeah, we had to, the nature of the game, that when Lauren was going to take the level up to play a second hunter, and then we had to figure out what the abilities would be and how that makes sense. And then it was sort of the same thing of getting Mark's divine situations in place. It's like we'll have to follow the fiction and the system and see where is an appropriate point to bring them in.
Sure. And
as I sort of alluded to with my question for Lauren, that like there is, I think I can imagine in the fandom a like pretty distinct, obviously, demarcation between what Anna was like when she lived in Kira's head and what Anna is like now. I never played her as flirty. No, I did. That's not true.
You did.
I did play her as very flirty.
You did. Yes, back in season 1, which the listeners never listened to, the whole reason that I even RP'd having a crush on Mark was because that was a you creation.
Yeah, that was something I did. That's true. I'll take that. But no, it's been obviously really interesting to watch her grow and evolve, as it's been interesting to watch all of you guys grow and evolve. And the other thing that I keep saying that's so cool about telling a story in this way is that you guys as stars and writers are like really plugged into the characters and how they would act for realistic reasons, which sort of gets around a lot of the problems that TV shows had. TV shows like this have, in that each character is controlled by a small group who controls all of the characters. So sometimes there is like, you can tell a character only acted this way because the writers ran out of ideas. But when you guys act in a way, it's because Anna hasn't been alive very long, and she's trying to blaze a path in this new world that she's never been in before, that she's maybe becoming scared. I don't have a place here.
Yeah, it was also interesting too, like trying to figure out, like, this is a little bit behind the curtain stuff, but like trying to figure out what sort of playbook she should play as.
Yeah,
I'm glad I ended up going with the more of like the custom one of the Protector, because like none of the ones really felt like her, like of the core playbooks. And like I think I was even considering doing like a weird thing with like the pararomantic at one point, where it was like she was bonded to Kira in that way. But then there was the whole side of that where it was like they would have their bond could be like suffer or something, and I was like, that fundamentally feels wrong to me. Like it just didn't feel right, like to have that be threatened. So he ended up going with the Protector, and I think it worked out.
Yeah, I was gonna say the transition between what you guys decided and stuff was exquisite, as Jonny would say.
Thank you.
All right, next big question for Jonny, and feel free not to answer this one, but over the course of this arc, which hunter has caused you the highest amount of stress?
I freak out about all my children equally. I mean, in a way, Tiff, honestly, just because the inclusion of her was such a experiment, and like
she was the wild card. Like, what is Tiff gonna do?
yeah, and it's such an odd wrench to throw into things, and like because it was a little bit of like being like, hey, do you want to come see my band play? There was like. I want to ask Sarah to guess, but that's like a weird thing to kind of do. And then be like, we're going to do this weird thing. And then is it going to be Sarah just sitting there while these three play this game?
Well, also, like, it could have broken the game and us. Because, like, we'd been playing for, like,
Tiff could have killed
over
us.
a year. And, like, taking a chance to introduce a fifth player, not even a fifth player, but a friend. Like, we were, I think that was the beginning of our friendship, but it was just like, okay, we're going to make or break this friendship.
Thanks, Miah. I hadn't even thought about it that way.
Sarah, was there an underlying secret we didn't know about where you were going to like sabotage our game?
Yeah, my plan was to kill you all.
Spoilers.
There's
man.
still an arc 3.
Love it.
No, I got time.
All right, let's see. Oh, look it. I have questions for Sarah. What was your initial thoughts of the author's offer to join the team? Excitement, caution, or pure bloodlust?
Mine or Tiff?
Both.
Yeah, obviously.
Duh.
Sarah, was very excited because, as we all know, I've been a fan of the author just through...
Yep.
Don't put that out of context. Do not put that out of context. All I knew about her was that she was a mean woman, and I was like, cool, love it. You know, I'd listen to some of your guys' preliminary recordings, and I was like, who's this bitch on the phone? Yeah, so I was excited that Tiff was going to get to interact with her, because I was like, two villainous women. But I think Tiff was probably like shitting her pants to get that text, because she was like, what does this mean? Like, what's her angle?
I was going to ask because, like, I think in the episode, you after you get the offer, you kind of take a step back and you're like, I'm going to need some time on this.
I mean, she was definitely, like, very flattered. I think she was, like, genuinely like, oh, wow. Like, you know, I've been noticed. And
Okay.
I've been noticed for the qualities that, like, everybody else hates about me. So,
Sure.
like, that's kind of nice. But she was definitely very
Makes sense.
suspicious and distrustful because, you know, she and many of her closest friends, she doesn't have any currently, are monsters and magical. So she's not about that life.
I mean, except the queen. The queen is there.
Yeah.
In episode 20, Tommy is being attacked by the queen concealed. I had originally canceled, but I changed that. And Kira was desperately trying to get you to call off the attack. What was Tiff feeling like in that moment of being told what to do by the queen concealed or whatever, but then also
Lauren is looking at me like, yeah, Tiff, what was the reason?
Not sure if you know, but that's kind of my boyfriend.
Tiff has had a very tumultuous history with the Sparks brothers. Namely, she doesn't like them, and she still doesn't like them as adults because she doesn't have a reason to. I think she definitely like was siding with the queen much more than she should have, and was kind of like, well, I mean, you guys are like guests in this space, so like it makes sense that she'd be suspicious. And she definitely is not good at standing up to the queen and always wants to be on her good side. She's like a teacher's pet.
so it's kind of like balancing on a beam there. It's like I don't want to exert my power and get punished or whatever.
Then there's Kira who's like, oh, can you let us out of here? Like, oh, well, the queen can do that. No, but why don't you do it? Like, you can.
She's like, don't
go against the queen.
Don't make me choose sides here because it's gonna be the queen.
Yeah.
You're not gonna like the way it goes.
I'll ask one more question. What was Tiff's initial thought of Mark? Significant, insignificant? Because I think the only interaction that I really had that was of significance was the line at the party where I was like, oh yeah, we could like be together as a distraction. And you're like, there's a big flaw in that.
Yeah. I think Tiff like hadn't really like noticed or thought about Mark up until then. And then I think at that point she was just like really? I'm kind of like, who's this guy, and how unobservant is he?
Oh,
Very
fantastic.
Frustrated annoyance.
I do think like the other thing to point out that also comes in accidentally from Tiff's characterization as being a character in a different game, like all of the stuff that make Mark super weird is like not that weird to Tiff.
Oh, for sure.
Like, okay, his eyes are on fire, but he's still got a human head. Call me when it's a dog, okay?
Yeah.
Or a bird skull.
She just kind of wrote him off as some dude.
Well, Sarah, Casey and Tiff left things a little tense. Since you asked me how's Casey feeling about Tiff, how's Tiff feeling about Casey?
Right back at
Both
you.
of you asking questions. How do you think we feel about each other?
What do you think?
Do you like me? Check yes or no.
I'm thinking for a minute because I'm trying to remember exactly where they left off. I think she's definitely pissed at Casey. I think her feelings are kind of hurt. I think she genuinely does not understand at all Casey's decision to stay behind with the house. I think it was like frustrating for her. And I think the level of piss that Casey got at Tiff for it, I think Tiff is genuinely surprised and confused by that too. And I think she's left feeling pretty reactionary about it because she's like, well, I thought this was like a cool kind of hot girl on my level, likes to shoot things with guns, and she's mad at me for doing the logical thing. Like, what the fuck? Okay, fine. I won't talk to you ever again then. I think that's where she's at.
Well, and also, like, Casey straight up was, like, levying some pretty serious, like, allegations against Tiff, like, kind of implying that, like, maybe she meant to, like, have the dream dive accident to happen. Ouch.
Yeah. I think Tiff was really like, oh, okay, you see me as a monster. I get it.
Casey and Tiff never, given Casey actually finally found out what happened in the dream dive during her training like a year or something ago, I think never has confronted Tiff about it and maybe never really, really processed it. I definitely think that if Kira hadn't stepped in, we probably would have started killing each other.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it would.
Yay, Kira!
Thanks, Kira.
We're both the kind of people that like don't tell us what to do. Being that you've played a majority of Tiff as a teenager, now that you've played her older, do you have a favorite and a least favorite, or like an easier or hardest part of playing Tiff as an adult?
Yeah, I think it's hard having to like rein her in a little bit. It's really fun like playing a character with like, poor impulse control. Mark?
No.
Tell me about it.
Well, speaking of Mark, what was the hardest thing that Mark had to face, in your opinion, during Act 2? I more so mean like, emotionally and psychologically, but if you want to take the easy way out, I guess it could be a monster.
It's kind of split between two things. Like emotionally, at Mark's core, probably Theo going to Chicago.
Oh.
I think that when you told him that, it was just like an instant like, that's not going to be a part of my life anymore. And it just like, it hit him like a wall kind of.
Well, you're really good at hiding it.
And well, because he didn't want to make her like, he wants her to like do what she wants to do. And like, if that was going to Chicago, Mark didn't want to make it hard for her.
You're putting her happiness above his own. That's what we call love, ladies and gentlemen.
What the fuck?
Finding out that Mark was a prince was also a little bit of a big pill to swallow, but it was more of like excitement, opportunity. I don't know what's going to happen next type of worry.
Maybe a little bit of relief.
There's a little bit of relief. It was more positive, but yeah, for the Theo situation, that was a bigger pill to swallow.
I have a couple of hard-hitting accusatory questions next.
Who are those for?
Well, they're for you, of course. You brought back Faces and Sigma with Tessa. Why the fuck did you do that? Also, if it's not clear enough, I hate him. Because you could have just brought only Tessa back.
It made a lot of sense.
Lies.
I knew how much you hated him. And I liked them. I liked, there was a lot of nuance to him in season 1 that like sadly never made its way to any kind of air, but like there was an implication that he was doing this for his family, and there was an implication that his family was also itself a kind of found family of misfits like him. I really liked him as a understandable scoundrel. Like he was doing bad shit, but he was in a really bad situation, and just like also I like him as a that part of him as a reflection of Casey, of like, I'm a violent person with a violent job, and I'm great at it because of how good I am at violence. This is my skill. This is what I have to offer. What else am I supposed to do? And because that whole thing tied up so well, and I just loved the idea of like
torturing me.
Well, giving you what
Bringing
you want
him back in my life.
Basically a mixed success, and as if it was a role-playing device.
Yeah, giving you exactly what you want
at
kind
a cost.
Plus, it made a ton of sense for if he didn't do that thing, if he didn't kill her, then erase your memory of him killing her, what else would he have been up to? And it made a ton of sense that if she didn't die, that means that his plan, that his assassination failed, and his organization wouldn't accept that. And it made a ton of sense for them to like him to go on the run, and then her to also eventually go on the run, and then the two of them to find out about each other and be like, you're on the run from the same people and for the same reason that I am. We can help each other. And they did.
I'll be honest, I totally forgot that he is a broken family, but whatever. I do want to kind of ask sort of a follow-up question. Is there anything between him and Tessa?
Absolutely not.
She's gay.
Okay.
Absolutely not. He's also, I don't know if I hope that I've just been vibing this. He's also significantly older than her. Like he's probably late 40s. Definitely much more of a like broken father-daughter on the run, Last of Us type thing.
Okay. Was there a scene or a character in this second act that you were nervous about? Like whether it's like introducing or playing out?
Well, I've already touched on Tiff quite a lot, but I think I was nervous about Cross because I wanted you guys to like him in Chicago, and then I wanted you to hate him in Double Cross, but you can't change the character. Like you can't, like it's, if you do it like that and it's a face heel turn, then it's like, it's jarring and weird. But like, if I can just play the guy the same way, but now you just know different facts about him, that's so much more interesting. That's much, much more fun. So he was a tough balance.
You succeeded very well on that. Like listening back to it and editing it, like jaw on the floor, like we were definitely like suspicious. Yeah. But we didn't dig deep enough into who he is.
He was helping us enough to be like, you know what, you're being useful to us in this moment. And
same him to you. That like, it was very important to me that it not be an ally in the first part and an enemy in the second part. I wanted it to be the same guy who's just like, I'm now done pretending like you're useful. Mm-hmm. I'm still like this. That was something that I was worried I was going to screw up, and I think I did okay.
I'd hate him.
Oh, you did amazing. You did more than okay. Following up on this line of questioning, was his intention then, like, because he was clearly gonna like go after Kira's abilities and presumably Mark and Theo's, was he just like going to take them and leave them, and then just like with like Casey, like, because she wasn't in that vision at all that he had.
I assume he should kill her.
Was he going to have to kill her?
He was going to have to kill her, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it makes total sense. She's here on a very dangerous mission. She's getting herself mixed up with the Council of Many. As someone like that dies, that's going to be cost of doing business. Yeah, what he was doing is what he does. That would have been showing initiative.
Mm-hmm. I feel like regardless, I mean, like if his plan went out or like whatever, like he would have to kill Casey. I know Jonny had said that she is his biggest threat, and like Casey would be a train in that revealing like the truth. So there's nothing that he could have done except for killing her.
And that is what I meant when I said Casey's his biggest threat. That like in the same way that you ended the Chicago arc administratively. There was a world where what you do is like somehow get him exposed and deal with him that way. But that's not your world.
Yeah. Well, apologies for asking this kind of follow-up question with that. Is that Casey had told Jesse, like, she was going to Chicago and et cetera. So, like, say we were all killed, Casey was killed. I mean, would Cross have taken into, like, his calculations, like, he would also have to deal with Jesse? Or is that an unknown?
Jesse would have been the same category as everybody else in here. It's just like, I'll come up with a plausible story for how she died that does or does not involve me. We will have gone someplace and I was the only survivor of the encounter. And, you know, if Davis doesn't want to believe this about his sister, then maybe he should take a look at alternate universes, because that's what he maybe thinks he's in. Not so subtle implication that I think he's crazy. It would be his word. It would be Jesse's word against Cross.
Jesse versus Cross. Yeah.
Fucking hate that guy.
Speaking of characters' intentions, was Jacob's intentions honest with bringing Theo to Chicago?
Yes. I mean, it's that thing of this is something that's happening in the middle of the season, and the Miah Detjen as Theo and Casey keeps showing up in the opening credits. Like, you had not decided to retire your character. If you had, that would have been okay. But can I say I'm pleased with the family construction you created for the Nessos. Like, you gave me a lot of different interesting characters to play around with, and a lot of different interesting ways that they seem to fit into the family dynamic, which is honestly the most interesting way to think about packs of characters like that, is like, what's their biggest relationship and how do they embrace or reject it? Mm-hmm. And like down the line, they all roll different. So Jacob has been an interesting concept as someone who I think you thought we would never see because he had moved away.
Yeah, I more so was like, oh, Jonny might bring him to Chicago or bring him to Minnesota. But
right.
Like, he's also the character and the sibling in the family.
Yes.
It doesn't come home unless it's a holiday, maybe.
Because in a family like that, there is going to be one. But yes, he was honest. He was sincere.
And then this is kind of like an overarching general question about TTRPGs to you, Jonny. What is your favorite part of a session or a mystery? Like, is it listening to your player's RP? Is it a scene you've prepared? Is it the fight?
It's profile mode. Like, it's...
Oh my God.
My favorite part is universally when one of you truly surprises me. That... says or does something that follows logically from what's happened so far, but I could not have seen coming. That's my favorite part. And then the corollary from that is the process of having to integrate that surprise and that new information that we just made up into whatever else has already happened. And if it's not already been clear, that's what profile mode is. That when I'm like, you said something that has not been mentioned that is an utterly new piece of information. But if I combine it with this existing piece of information and then I invent this third piece of information, all of that changes everything.
Yeah.
I love that we pointed out profile mode and now you're defining it.
Yeah, like it's a thing, and it's a very distinct moment and kind of thought that I do. All of this is too much information. I have to go to my mind palace, and my mind palace is over there.
Yeah, it's always that direction too. It's never the other way.
All right. Well, moving on. Lauren, I have a couple of questions for you as Kira and Anna. Anna has tried a lot of firsts when being brought to life. What was her first, and what is something that she has yet to try?
Her first. I don't know what to do with that. Getting dinner with Kira and Tommy probably was her first. Like, going out to a restaurant was probably one of the first things that she did, because I think Kira mentioned that she was going to do like a proper like introduction for Kira or for Anna and Tommy. So that was probably her first thing, was going out to eat, and which just sounds so mundane. Something she's yet to try. There's so many things she has yet to try.
Do you think she has a bucket list?
I don't think it's like a formal list, but it's sort of just like anything that she hasn't tried. She's kind of like, oh, I'll try that. Like,
is she looking forward to doing her taxes this year?
That would be the bane of her existence. I think she'd be like, I don't have to do taxes, right, Ramsey Lincoln, right, Lincoln Ramsey. I don't have to do taxes. That's not a thing I have to do. But yeah, no, I think she's pretty much game to try whatever. With the caveat of, is this something that sounds fun and interesting and new? If it's not, then she's kind of just like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to do that part of being human.
So revealing Anna to the rest of the team wasn't on Kira or Anna's terms. If you got the chance, how would Kira have liked to introduce Anna to the rest of the group?
Yeah, I feel like it probably would have been a lot more like we probably would have had like a dinner party of some sort or something.
Aww.
And had everybody over who to get a chance to introduce her to Anna. Probably would have nerdily like been like, oh, like here are some facts to know about Anna, and like just like things to know about her, and getting everybody up to speed on who this person is that they've never really met. They've just kind of heard about her.
Fun facts on like little napkins like you do at a wedding.
or like she would have went around everybody been like, you should like ask Anna some questions, like if you could do that to like have the conversation like run a little smoothly, and none of that happened. So yeah, and it left Kira feeling like she did something wrong, Anna feeling like, cool, imposter, I happy to be here, guys. I'm just trying to live. Like, sorry, that was apparently bad.
My last question, and the last question for this discussion, I've always wanted to know why Kira wanted the connection back with the creator. Like, why did you want that? And like, what was going on through like Kira's head?
It was, I think, in the same vein of like Theo thinking that this isn't working. I like need to grab like something that would maybe help me control the situation or be more powerful. It's that kind of protective, reactionary gut instinct of like, a lot of bad things had just happened in quick succession in that episode where Kira had lost control of herself. She didn't know like kind of her own true nature. Things were going to shit with Casey and Tommy, and she wanted answers, and she kind of was just like, okay, the creator can give me answers. There's power there. Maybe I can use it. And naively, she reached out to him, and it ultimately hasn't really led anywhere because the connection has kind of been subdued because she hasn't done any of the jobs that he's asked her to do. So it turned out to be fine, right? But yeah, I think it was definitely she was in a bad place and was trying to get control by tapping into his power, basically. Mm-hmm. So she's got control issues.
Well, those were a lot of questions, and that was a lot of things that happened this arc.
I have one more question, I think, to close us out.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask for everybody, I guess, what's been like your favorite monster or villain that Jonny has made and like had us encounter so far? And
Sarah, you can say what Tiff's would be for Monsterville if you want.
I think for me, as much as I fucking hate the guy, all of my favorite monsters are, well, they're more proper villains than they are
Jerk of the Sometimes.
Yeah, Jerk of the Sometimes podcast. All of mine, I think, are actually, like, as much as I hate them, they are very good and compelling villains. It's probably Cross and Rex that are up there at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Are my faves / I hate them.
I half agree. Cross is probably my favorite villain. I want to hate him. I do hate him, but fuck, why?
Makes for very entertaining mystery.
It was a good like gate into the unraveling that is the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What about you, John or Sarah?
My favorite was definitely in Monsterville, Lady of the Locks.
Mm-hmm.
She's so cool and creepy.
Personal point of pride. That I would have to agree with you on that one. Thank you.
I've heard about the lady. She is cool and also horrifying.
I had a lot of fun with her.
She gave me like other mother vibes from Coraline.
Yes, that was by design. I think I even name checked her when I introduced her.
Yeah.
But like then you got to keep if you say that, you got to play that.
I think the red noise, honestly, because it was something that
Mark created.
Well, It was all me. No.
You're not wrong.
No,
Check out the season 1 recap, everybody.
it was very horror kind of moment.
Mhm.
Like I was hiding in the woods and this thing just kind of came out of nowhere and I was like, oh my God, run. And that was kind of a turning point for Mark too, with the eyes and everything in that area. So
That's true.
I have to say that was pretty unique.
I'm retconning everything that I'm just saying. My favorite villain has been Donovan.
I was gonna say,
Oh yeah, you forgot that he started as a villain.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love him. I love how far he's come, and with Kira anyway. If it weren't for Kira,
Yeah.
he'd probably still be a villain, but
He's a good comeback story villain.
Mhm.
Speaking of villains, Jonny, will you sign us out? Whoa.
Oh, you're a monster. Well, thank you, the 4 of you, and also everybody to the listening public for joining us on Book Club as we reminisce about Act 2 of the Cover Story campaign. In 2 weeks, we'll be back with another proper episode, and we will be going into our final act of the season with a special guest.
yay!
Tiff's coming back, you guys.
Whoa!
We have her for the finale.
Will the night terror ship commence?
Okay, bye. This has been the Monsters Playbook, featuring
John Wander as Mark Clayton.
Lauren Johnson as Anna and Kira Ashwood.
Miah Detjen as Casey Davis and Theo Nessos.
Sarah Baker as Tiff Torres.
and Jonny Grubb as literally everybody else. Our theme song is by me, Jonny Grubb. The Monsters Playbook is produced and engineered by Miah Detjen and edited by Miah Detjen and Lauren Johnson. If you liked this episode, please tell a friend. We love friends. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Monsters Playbook, and on Twitter at Monster Playbook, and on Web 1.0 at monstersplaybook.com. And come hang out with us on Discord. We're fun. We'll see you next episode where, as always, I'll have some good news and some bad news. Thanks for listening. Ah, shit.
Johnny?
Jonny? Did he just leave?
Johnny was like, fuck these guys.
Johnny?
Great.
This is going so well.
Is anybody messaging him or
I'll
else?
message him. He's back. Hang on.
I hit the wrong quit. This is Johnny's actual recording for Book Club Act 2.
This is horrible.
No, we're going to be great. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be great. So hello and welcome to an extremely special episode of Monsterville. Not Monsterville. What am I doing? I'm all thrown off by the participation of our friend Sarah.